Welcome to Oink Time. I'm Jen Carnovale.
I'm Ben Ellwood.
And today with us we have Sam Bowring.
Hello, everybody. Comedian, author, playwright?
Yes.
When was the last play you wrote?
15 years ago.
Still counts.
If I'd written a fucking play in year 4, I would still be hanging my hat on that credit.
Yeah.
TV man.
TV dude.
All round nice dude.
Yeah, sure.
What are you most comfortable describing yourself as to people? An author or a comedian?
It depends what I want to talk about for half an hour at a party. If I don't know, if they, it depends on them. Like if they look like they're going to be more interested in talking about comedy, I'll say comedian. If they look like they're going to be more interested in writing, I say writer. If I don't really want to talk to them, I say I don't know, just flower pot examiner or something.
I'd be into that.
Yeah. You're the first person we've asked that question to that does comedy that said that they do tell people they do comedy. Most people want to avoid the topic with strangers as much as possible.
I mean, it's the same endless bunch of questions, isn't it? But I don't know. If they're a cute babe, I want to invite them to a
published
gig.
fantasy author.
Well, I tell them the whole CV in that case.
When I was 14...
How many books have you written?
14 published, 4 self-published, 10 traditionally published.
Fuck.
I don't know the difference between any of those, but they all had published, so well done.
Wait, that's like 25
self-published
books.
just means I did it myself because it was so
books.
weird and niche that no one else would have possibly been interested in them. 10 traditionally published is the impressive bit.
Well.
Yeah.
And these are your grand fantasy trilogies?
There are some.
That sounded
there are some
like
kids'
kind of
books.
patronising.
Me and Sam I have a terrible tendency of always sounding patronising when I talk
These
about
are your
books.
grand...
No, I don't mean to. I don't mean to. I think what it is...
These are your epic wank VSC.
I think there's part of me that's really snippy and jealous about it because I couldn't even imagine writing a short story, let alone a novel, let alone a trilogy.
I could teach you.
Could you?
Yes, I could.
Is there an actual method to it, to doing it well?
Of course there is.
No, I know that. Okay, a method that you could actually learn, or is it innate?
Right.
Well,
That's what I mean.
yeah, I think it's innate if you're a creative. I snobbishly don't buy into like university courses on writing and books and things like that. However, if you do have some innate ability, I do believe in certain tools and methodologies and strategies that can help you get it out.
I once saw an interview with Alan Moore, who's considered one of the greats that's alive right now, writers. And he was talking about how, he grew up in like a industrial, like Northampton in England, very industrial. And he talks about how he says there were at least 4 or 5 guys in his class in school that were much, much better writers than him. The difference being that every one of them hit that certain age where they're like, well, that's just a pipe dream. You've got to go and, make shit at the factory.
Yeah.
He just happened to stick with it,
I've been writing till I'm dead. That's why I can't have any children, because they'll destroy my ability to write.
That's right.
Yeah. Also the impotence. But let's go with the choice.
When you create like a fantasy world that, is like world building stuff, is that stuff that happens as you're writing it, like it flows on the page, or is that something that's constantly existing in your head?
It's a bit of both, to be annoying, but it's like, I don't know, an idea will tick over, usually years, and so you might have large bits of architecture that are already in there, blocks of the story and the world, but then there's lots of blanks to fill in out of necessity, so you don't start from scratch just, throwing colours against the page, but you're joining dots in a way, or joining blocks. To coin an amazing new phrase, as part of my tutelage of you, young Ellwood.
Oh, thank you. Isn't that like, I heard this writer thing once, and I guess it sounds a little bit wanky, but I like it, that this writer, he would write every day, and it was like he didn't really know what the story was. The story was being told to him as he was writing it, and he skipped a couple of days of writing, and when he sat down to write, it was almost like the characters had to catch him up on what they'd been doing in the interim time between now and the last time that he sat down to write. Written. Yeah, like they almost had like an autonomous life of their own. Like they were so fully rounded in his head that they were just doing what they were doing, kind of separate from him.
Yeah, well, good characters do that. I mean, the character in the book that I've just finished that I haven't yet really shown to anyone is I love her. And when terrible things happen to her, I sit at my desk and cry while I'm writing. While tears are splashing off my
that's great.
fingers as they're typing. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this to you. But I have to, but...
Yeah.
Anyway, it has a happy ending.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should go to the hat.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
The hat contains quite a few different words. You get to put your hand in and pick one, and then you can go from that word into whatever you would like.
Okay.
Drum roll.
And hopefully the conversation will somehow revolve around whatever your first interpretations of what
The word is
Justice.
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 How do you feel about the word justice?
How do I feel about just justice, huh?
We don't
Just
have to.
start
We can
out
do another
small. No.
If it's-
Just give me a moment.
Okay.
Well, I guess it's a hugely, massively grey area, isn't it?
Justice.
Justice. A lot of terrible things are done in the name of justice. It's very close to the name Justin. Okay, I'm out of things to say about it.
So yeah, a different word.
Do you want a different word?
I don't know. Can you give me a hand?
Well, no, so it's
Is
just
there a
basically
question?
what it means.
Is there any methodology to how you create these
so
words?
it's whatever it means to you.
Who
So-
wrote this bit of paper? Who's the person who dots their I's with a full circle?
I
Do you think it's a
don't
male?
know.
I don't think it is a male trait
It's not my
somehow.
male trait at all.
No, it's a cute
I
eye.
can't remember now. It can mean whatever you want. So you can talk about it in terms of like justice you've experienced in relationships or in jobs, or if you feel like you know
Social justice.
like however.
Social justice
But if-
warriors. Oh my god,
If
what a
you
deep well.
feel as if it doesn't have any.
If it doesn't inspire anything, we can just pick something else. That's happened before. And
Well,
we
it's
can
just
clap and pick up the
look.
word.
It's one of these topics of which there are many in the world, which create an enormous fractal of thought almost immediately and paralyze me utterly because
It's too great.
it's too big, and the moment that you start thinking about them, here's what I'll say.
Okay.
That a lot of people, in my experience, are not very long thinkers. They go from A to B in a very reactionary way, but they don't go to C and D and E, and even that's wrong because that's a chronological pattern, and it's really a fractal. And so when you hand me this word justice, I see an instant map of stars in my
it's
head,
too
like
much.
interconnected dots, and I feel like I need about 10 more beers. They're giving me beers, ladies and gentlemen.
So, does it feel like it's just too huge for you to discuss? We can narrow it down. We can talk about justice in a particular area. Of
I feel like we should just pull another word out of that.
Yeah, let's get another word.
Okay,
Another
ready?
word.
We're going to just continue.
Wait, just clap it in case we need to fucking edit that out.
I'm not going to.
Why, you didn't like the fact that I had nothing to say about justice?
We can say that he doesn't like justice.
I don't like
Bowring
justice.
does not like justice.
The
What's this?
white cisgendered male Sam Bowring does not like justice.
Okay, second word.
Oh, wow.
Here we go.
Okay, here
There's
we
a
go.
bit of pressure
This
now.
is going to be like, I don't know, what's this one going to be? Like the economy
I
or
hope it's
something?
something. What is that?
Faith.
Shit.
All right, now I can talk about this.
Can you?
Do you have faith?
I guess, in a very broad sense, that I have faith in something greater going on, but in a scientific way, like that there's multiple dimensions or something's going on. Well, we don't even know what we don't even know. And, I mean, faith kind of implies that there's a reason for us to be here, I guess, which I don't necessarily agree with. Let's try this again in a different way. I believe people who are religious have a mental condition. It's like a mental disease. And
A disease or a survival mechanism?
a disease.
I just want you to know, don't
Because-
hold back on this, by the way.
No, I'm not. Are you listening
you.
to what I'm saying? I really do. And it's a disease because it's communicable. You catch it from your parents if they happen to be, into some particular ferryman in the sky. And there are different. There's having a sniffle and there's full-blown AIDS, obviously. People who have just a touch of religion.
Yeah.
I can't believe that it still infects the world to the degree that it does. I'm talking, I guess, from a Western perspective there, but given the amount of knowledge that we have and the amount of scientific debate, and I can't believe that it still infects politics and schools, and I
But everything
hate it.
But I feel like, of course, it does.
But it affects you even if you don't believe in it. Like, I was raised completely agnostic/atheist, and yet a lot of like stuff like shame or doubt and that kind of stuff is a direct kind of symptom of a society that has that as the tendency, even if you're not specifically raised in it.
I
Yeah,
feel like
of course.
it definitely...
If everyone else around you has the plague, you're going to be a bit careful walking down the street and who you kiss.
But that's it. But I don't even think that it's that simple. I feel like people are looking for something and it answers questions. I know people whose parents are not in any way religious, and I've met people like this many times, where they and their brother have turned to religion whole hog, and their parents aren't. Like, it happens a lot. We've got there's a few guys. There's these two brothers who used to do comedy. They've stopped now, but they were both massively into Hillsong. Huge, like, camp leaders and all that jazz. Their parents have zero interest in religion.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it is always...
It doesn't mean, like, not believing in, religion doesn't mean not believing in anything. If you want to know what I personally believe...
No, but I just mean I think it does serve a very clear purpose for people. I understand why it is very much still around.
Yeah, well, people are mostly self-centered and egocentric and need answers because they see themselves as important in the turning cogs of the universe,
Of
right?
course, but that's what we all are.
But you can still have that. You can still find meaning in life without needing to know that you fit into some wider celestial plan or something like that. There are all kinds of modes of faith. I believe, for example, that. And I actually probably do believe this, and I choose to believe this, and I enjoy believing this, even though I don't actually truly believe this.
Okay.
Is that we're probably all a part of some soul that I believe in the soul, and I believe that it's an energy, and that when we die, we become the grass, and then the antelopes eat the grass.
Yeah, there's a...
And then I will die in a stampede in a ravine. Ravine. Simba. And I got my religion from the Lion King.
Yeah, no, of course.
But I see why you go towards that, and then why people also go to other stuff. I mean, they all have that whole thing of, like, we're all in it together. Like, all types of faith, I think, carry very similar things, which is we're all one, we're all... going through it together. There is some form of afterlife. Like, even if it is... I understand...
And if you don't follow our exact set of rules, then you'll burn in hell for all eternity. And if you don't...
I think that...
And there's so much hypocrisy and evil.
The Pope came forward recently and said there is no hell, which was really interesting. I didn't read anything else out.
He's just rewriting the book. Rewriting the book whenever he feels like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I thought it was... he can. He's the Pope.
They added new scenes.
What, he can eliminate an entire dimension?
No, but he can...
That's what hell is.
For Catholicism, he's like the top...
No, I understand that.
He can... But anyway, I'm just saying, I feel like a lot of them will carry really similar things. And even if yours doesn't involve any organised religion, it's not a foreign concept to say that we live life and we die, and then we contribute to the earth, which gives life to other things, like the cycle of stuff.
All
like
made of stardust.
Yeah, whatever. Like, you know what I mean? It's like it's not that far removed from a lot of organised religion. And I'm not talking about Catholicism or Islam or...
No, but when you boil it down, it's not. It is all the same.
Yeah, they're all kind of the same.
And that's the tragedy of everyone killing each other. It's that old Joseph Campbell thing where he talks about, it's all a mono religion. It's all the same religion. It's just, and it's the same God. It's just a God wearing a different cultural costume, so that the people of that particular sect or that particular country can recognise it.
Yeah, can identify.
Yeah, but the feeling, like, I don't doubt that when a Pentecostal person, those weird snake churches where they dance with rattlesnakes and stuff, and they look fucking insane. They're delirious. I don't doubt for a second that they're having a peak, quote-unquote, religious experience. I don't doubt that they're experiencing ecstasy, and it probably does feel like God is inside them. I just don't think it's the monotheistic, New Testament God that they think it is. I just think it's an energy that they've kind of...
Yeah, they've got themselves high.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
it's like people
high
speaking
on
in
being
tongues.
alive. On the mystery of what the fuck all this is.
And group hysteria.
Yeah.
Do you know that it wasn't this Pope, but one of the previous popes came out and said that the Church no longer is against the idea that there could be alien life. So now the Church is not against believing in mysterious things that live in the sky. strangely, and but that it's possible that the alien religions when they went through their Adam and Eve phase, that they never offended God by eating a bit of fruit that He told them not to, and so that they live on in the state that humanity was supposed to, having never offended their Creator. They still live in the Garden of Eden and all that, and so they're getting around with their 5 feet, and flapping and eating gobbledygook berries happily and living forever, because they never nailed a whole bunch. Like they never nailed Blamthorpe's tentacles to a cross. No one ever had to die for our sins. Which, by the way, is why I sin, because I'm like, well, if someone's going to die for them, I mean, I wouldn't want him to have died for nothing.
So I have to ask, because the word faith, I don't know if I would even automatically go to religion. I mean, I know it's
no, they're two different things, I think.
Yeah, but your instinct when you read it was to talk about faith and how you think, you have very strong opinions on how it's all bullshit, but I want to just basically... how did you get there? Were you always of that thinking? Were your parents of that thinking?
Well, just to answer the first bit first, my instinct was to desperately clutch at any straw with a massive topic and not go through that whole justice palaver.
Oh, that's okay. I can see why. I mean, they're big topics.
Quick, let's have something to say. Don't let the fractal overcome you.
They're big topics for a reason. But you still went there first. So I just want to ask, did you have religion when you were growing up and you are against it? Were your parents exactly the same as you are?
My dad was an atheist and my mum was agnostic, and they both took the attitude that I should learn for myself what I think. And I had my best friend when I was in primary school came from a very religious family, and I went away on a couple of camp trips. Mm-hmm. I don't even know which stupid version of the church it was. But I went away on these couple of camp trips, and it was kumbaya. It was the old cliche, and there was teachings and boring stories and boring songs and prayer and all kinds of boring shit. But then we went out and went kayaking and all that. And I just thought it was kind of a fun weekend away. So for a little while, I was like, yeah, religion's not that bad. You get to go out to the bush and kayak around. Occasionally you have to sit down and get penalised. But little kids always have to do something that's boring every day. So I guess this is just another boring thing that I have to do in my day. But then later on, I probably identified as agnostic. And then after that, I was atheist. And after that, I'm just like, I don't know. And agnostic, I don't think is I don't know anymore. I think agnostic is... something else. So,
but I don't think that. I honestly don't.
I'm a scientic.
Yeah,
that's like a Catholic version of.
Well, I think it's just
you're a believer
believing
in
something.
Yeah.
For me, it's like I've worked through my life and gotten to a place where it's like it's kind of my own system of belief that is very difficult to even describe to anyone because it's so personal.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a staunch atheism, but it's also got nothing to do with religion. It's a definite, I think it goes back to that, what you were talking about, it's hard because all these things have become horrible meme cliches. We are all star stuff and we're all one. But, that is a true fact. It is a true fact that, you are constantly just being dismantled and reassembled.
But it's a true fact that's expressed in a nice way. I mean, the other way to put it would be that we're all a bunch of dirt.
But it's still all part of one kind of thing. It's I always like the Carl Sagan quote that you are an aspect of the universe that's having an experience of itself. And I kind of do believe that life and consciousness is probably just an inevitable factor of physics and nature.
Maybe we're all the same soul that just repeats endlessly. Yeah. We're all each other.
I often think that maybe each life, from a human to an ant to a dog to a tree, is basically the universe having an experience like we would have in virtual reality. When you die, like an aspect of the universe just the mask comes off. You're like, whoa, that was really real that time.
Let's go for another trip.
Yeah.
And who knows, I'm not even saying I believe that, but we just don't fucking know. And to think that we do is just nuts.
And that's what I think.
But do you feel that people who are religious or identify as religious are foolish? Or you feel as
half the time I think that they probably aren't really religious and they're doing it out of habit and fear.
I think there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Or cultural reasons.
And to be honest, if I meet... this is going to sound awful, but a lot of what I'm saying probably sounds awful to someone.
No, it's just...
But I was chatting to an old man on the street, drunk, in King Street the other day, and he had amazing, interesting stories to tell, and I was so amazed with it. He was an academic, and he was of an Indigenous background, and so had sort of brought in all kinds of different experiences to his life, and I was just fascinated with talking to him. And the moment that he said he was Catholic, I literally just frowned at him and walked away because it invalidated everything that he just said to me. I was like, I'm no longer interested in what you have.
See,
you have nothing to contribute to my life anymore.
That's so extreme to me.
Yeah, I know.
Because I feel
Hi, everyone.
I feel like it is. You have no idea why they've chosen that. Like, I mean,
because they're idiots.
Yes,
Not
I mean,
always.
like,
I don't agree with
I can't deny that I have judged people before. I definitely have. When they've said they're of a certain belief or whatever, and, you know, you get to a certain age and you're like, come on, you know.
Yeah.
But the other side is you don't know why they're drawn to that religion. You don't know what it means to them. You don't know... Like, I feel like I know enough people that identify as enough different religions that are so... that it's so personal to them that sometimes you may feel that the reason that they identify as that is incorrect because you're like, if you're going to identify as Catholic or Muslim or Jewish, then, you know, it means this, but it doesn't to them.
Also,
like, it's such a personal thing.
I don't feel like I have to buy into this whole I respect your right to believe what you like, because your right to believe what you like, anyway, that tongue twister aside,
No, yeah.
means that you look at me and you think I'm going to burn in hell for all
That
eternity.
doesn't bother me, though.
That doesn't bother me at all. I
No,
feel
so
like
fuck you. I don't have to respect what you believe. If what you believe is that I'm a bad person, intrinsically...
You believe they're an idiot.
Yeah, which is me disrespecting...
So it's like...
That's my point.
I feel like that thinking is so dangerous.
Jen and I know a couple of people who...
Well, I'm gonna kill you. No, just kidding.
Jen and I know a couple of people who are pretty staunch Christians, and there was one long night where I was having a very broad theological conversation with a couple of them, and we get on famously, even though we couldn't be more... They don't realise we actually have more in common than they realise.
I think they know because they, you know, we don't want to discuss them too personally, but they're young and they're really deeply religious. But I think they know that you have a lot in common because you can talk about anything together.
Well, but you know, I'm talking theologically. We probably have more in common. I'm talking like I'm probably more spiritual than they realise. I hate that fucking word, but whatever it is. But it's just manifested in a different way. It's not Jesus, and it's not this rules, and it's not you're fallen and you're dirty and you're shameful. Like, I think that's a real crime.
So they don't really subscribe to the tenets of their own stupid made-up rules.
No, they do. They believe that I'm going to hell.
No, Ben's saying that...
they do believe that.
Yeah.
And I said that to them one night. I was like, you guys think I'm going to hell? And they were like... And they weren't happy about it, but when I was younger, I used to be very offended by that. I would get that whole, like, are you saying that I'm a bad person? Whereas now I'm just like, well, it's just what they believe.
I was never offended by that at all.
When I was younger, I was.
I don't care.
Now I kind of respect if like when I was in Melbourne a few months ago. It was before the gay marriage vote, and standing outside one of the churches was this guy holding a vote no sign. He wasn't getting up in anyone's face. He was just standing there. And I fundamentally disagree with everything he believes and everything he stands for. But I found myself in this bizarre position where I was I was defending him to other people that were screaming in his face. Not staunchly, but just kind of going like, man, like, he just believes what he believes. And he has the right. And if you believe what he believes, what he thinks he's doing is saving society. So he would almost be in dereliction of duty not to stand there and oppose this thing. I disagree with him.
No,
but I don't think that he should be screamed at and fuck you, get the fuck out.
I don't either. So there's this footballer who very recently came out. He's a Mormon. He's a practicing Mormon. Everyone knows he's a Mormon. Every time he has an interview, people ask him his opinion on gay marriage. They are clearly looking for a soundbite to attack this guy and hit a story. And they asked him, and he said, I think people who are gay are going to hell. And you're like, of course he fucking thinks that.
Why is that surprising?
He identifies as a Mormon. But what I don't understand is why the fuck does that matter? I do things that offend people all the time, and they tell me, and I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't understand why it matters. It's so dangerous to have this attitude of repulsion towards other things. When you say that you're, like, disgusted and these people are stupid, it's one of the most dangerous emotions you can have. They've proven it, because hatred isn't as strong as repulsion. That's what things like the Nazis used, because it makes someone unhuman, and it allows you to do things that remove empathy from what you're doing because you can say they're less than by saying they're stupid. And I find it incredibly odd.
Let me say...
Yeah, but if you're to say everyone who's Catholic or Jewish or Islamic is a fucking idiot, it's a pretty huge blanket.
I know, and it's probably something that, people don't necessarily say a lot, especially trolls online will when they're anonymous. People don't normally go on podcasts where their name is definitely attached to it and use words like stupid to blanketly make it.
But I respect that conviction as well.
No, I know. But what I was going to say about being dangerous, though, Jen, is that I find it dangerous that. We're talking now about, bits and pieces of religion, but in a broad way. I mean, someone like, say, Tony Abbott can take the attitude that we exist on this earth to do what we want with the earth, what we want, and he can now, use that to justify the wholesale destruction of the environment.
Yeah.
And the earth is in a really bad way, and if people don't sort of come together and start respecting science and evidence and start making changes, which might be uncomfortable changes, and stop hiding behind the idea that, we're all going to... It doesn't matter because we're all going to heaven, or those are the super...
I think religion...
I find that to be incredibly dangerous from a human fucking race perspective. That I think that religion is a kind of an enemy of the future.
I agree that religion should have no part.
Sam Bowring is my name.
No.
I don't think religion should have any part in government at all. I don't think it should be a remote consideration at all, because people are only happy about it when it's the religion they choose.
But I think old mum
I don't think it's okay at all. I completely agree.
But
that's fucking insane.
Harmless old, Ma and Pop who just believe what they believe because it's the way they were brought up and they're genuinely nice people and blah blah blah. But they are the bricks and mortar of this system. And
they're voting and they're having an effect. Yeah. I guess everyone's personal situation, upbringing affects them. Mine was of the thing that I don't really even know. My family was culturally Catholic because they were Italian, but it didn't really mean anything in terms of practices. My parents got divorced. My dad still probably identifies as that. I don't even know. Religion from a very young age was told to me as it's incredibly personal. It doesn't involve other people. You don't really talk about it. You do your own thing and you make peace. If that was
true, then it would be fine.
Well, but for my experience, it was. And so... I take that as I go, which is I don't think it should have a place in things like politics because it's none of my business what you believe, and I don't want to know what you believe, and you don't need to know what I believe. I know what you're saying. Realistically, it has a huge fucking destructive effect.
But I think this is where the schism between religion and faith becomes an issue, because I don't think that faith is the problem. I think that it's the religion, it's the rhetoric that is the problem. And
the organisation.
Yeah, it's the rhetoric that infects politics, and it's the rhetoric that infects society. Because faith in of itself is, I think faith is the very personal thing. Religion is the public face of faith.
Right. So
faith is personal. If you've had a personal relationship with God, or you've had a feeling of oneness with the universe or whatever, that transcends language. You can never really describe that to someone. You can only ever bastardize it through words. It's the religion where it's these rules and this tenet and that thing that you thought is disgusting and you're shameful. That's the stuff that's poison. Yeah. It's really poison.
It's the voting on things like gay marriage.
Yeah, exactly. It's just... if ever... Back to what I was saying before, I just wish if everyone could just identify, hey, it's all cool, man. There is no... It's all the same dude or dudette or whatever. It's all the same thing. It's okay to see it differently. The Eastern religions don't seem to have as much issue with that. In India, there's literally 4 million gods or something, and they all serve a different function. There's a hierarchy of gods and stuff, but it's not this no, it was that guy and that thing he said is the truth. I know they've got...
We can get divorced.
Yeah.
We're allowed to get divorced.
But it's... I think it's when it's...
I never should use India as an example for pro-divorce and lots of options.
No, every system... I'm not being one of those...
I was talking about Church of England, but...
I'm not being one of those Western fucking idiots that are the mystical East has it all figured out, because they've got as many fucking problems as...
I didn't think
Okay, good.
You come back next week with a tattoo on your face.
An Om tattoo
Just
at the base of my neck.
Zen out.
No, but like, yeah, I feel like faith and religion are different. And I don't think faith is what infects politics. I think it's organised religion. It's just so awful. But
that makes more sense to me. I definitely agree with that. So maybe I'm not explaining it properly. I guess that's how I feel.
And that's when
I just interpret faith as religion in that I say it's really personal, but I see how religion is not, because it's a organisation.
And that's where my defence of that guy holding the no sign came from. It wasn't defending his religion. His religion is toxic, and he was a hateful guy.
Yeah, he's an angry dude.
He really was. Like, you know, like, I mean, I was roasting him, just going like, oh man, you can really see the love of Christ in this guy, and it's alright, dude, just suck a cock, you'll be happy. But then everyone started getting
nice,
like,
Ben.
well, there was an opportunity to perform.
But then you got on his side.
Well, no, because it went from, the tone
You gave
changed.
him a blowjob. And he relaxed a little bit.
It made him realise who he truly was. No, but it was that thing of like the tone of the crowd shifted from ha ha ha. That I didn't have an issue with. I had an issue with people like spitting at him and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like the way to defeat an idea that you don't like is not to get aggressively hostile against it. It's to mock it. You know, they talked about that.
Or to also have a discussion.
Or to have a discussion, but also, like, when you're truly to be offended at something, you're giving the people the pushback they want. I once read a thing, you know, in the Middle Ages, people feared a hex, but they feared a satire even more, because a satire was a type of spell back then. You know, and it's because a satire could last till long after you were dead.
Yeah.
It would change the view of everyone, and politicians have been destroyed by that, by a well-timed political cartoon. I remember in the 90s when, I can't remember who it was, but a political cartoonist would draw Howard as Mr. Magoo. And all of a sudden, it just creates this absurdity in people's minds. Hitler feared Chaplin more than anyone.
Yeah.
He'd banned the Great Dictator because he was like, I cannot be seen as a buffoon. And I think to counter these things, laughter is one thing, but when it gets into that open hostility of like, fuck you, it's just going to achieve anything.
Just shouting into the void.
And in that sense, that was when I didn't respect the guy, but I felt it incumbent to not to defend him, but to be like, well, this is just what he believes.
Was he just peacefully
He
protesting?
was just standing there holding a sign.
And
He wasn't screaming. He wasn't,
He just looked crazy.
Again, I find his beliefs repugnant. I don't agree with anything he has to say. But in a weird way, respect is too far, but in a weird way, for want of a better word, I respected his faith in his own conviction that he... Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But
fuck you.
Well, you're not going to defeat religion. It's going to always be there.
No, I know. I'm in your crappy little apartment shouting into a microphone. I know I'm not going to defeat religion.
Bowring, we're all shouting into the microphone.
You just described our lives for the last decade and a half.
Well, just, I'm a bit tired. I've had a couple of beers. You put a little bit of paper that said faith in front of me.
Well, we tried to do justice.
With a crazy dot.
I apologise about the dot. Ben's like a control freak, so he always wants to control the word people get, and he did not pick justice or faith for you, so it's just what the hat chose.
Why didn't faith get a little circular dot?
Ben wrote that.
Oh, Ben wrote that.
That's my handwriting. I do love heart dots on my eyes.
I guess there's room for all peoples, and if we all just come together, the dot and the dotless.
I'm not 12.
I want
it's
you
a
to
circle.
I want you to elaborate on your. So you do have a certain faith. You have a faith in science. You have a faith in maybe the mathematical precision of the universe. Do you? No,
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I guess I have a faith in the fact that I don't know, and I will probably never know. But
that's liberating, right?
But and I don't think that it's meaningless. I don't think that my life is meaningless. Although if it is, it doesn't really bother me that much.
It doesn't matter.
But
either.
Isn't that sort of agnostic or not really?
Yeah.
Well,
I think agnosticism.
I'm only saying
agnosticism is there's a force, there's a god, whatever you want to call it. Maybe I might be getting that wrong. I don't know. I might be getting that entirely.
I think agnosticism is. I don't know.
That's how I interpret it.
I'm a fucking monkey on a rock in infinity. I have no idea.
Maybe it is. Maybe there's something I don't know.
Of course, maybe.
I mean, given that I just said I have faith in the fact that I don't know.
No, but like when I was younger, that used to drive me insane. I would, I was not reassuring to look into the stars and realise that they're all suns surrounded by planets and you're nothing. But something transitioned maybe in my 30s where it was suddenly that became the most liberating idea in the world of like, oh, this is just...
Yeah,
it's happening, but it's not as important. Like, it's just your dumb life. It's not that important. Like, it became very freeing rather than a...
And then I have that sort of similar thought. And then I think, well, I can do whatever I want. And then I'm like, well, this is why people invented religion. So that not everyone just goes, well, I guess I can do whatever I want all the time.
Yeah, moral, to set a bar.
But you can have a moral centre and you can love your friends and family and be nice and not just...
we can now.
Killing, murdering,
we can
rapist.
now, exactly.
We can now.
Yeah, I guess
Back
so.
in the day.
That's why we should abolish religion now, because we're more sophisticated now.
Don't you feel like it was just an inevitability? Like it was always going to be... Like, sometimes I like... if I'm in certain headspaces, you look at like the weight of history behind you, and I know the human brain makes everything seem like it was always inevitable, but you look at maybe the form that it took isn't inevitable, but the stages just seem inevitable. People were always going to gather around lakes because that was the best place to plant plants. And then you were always going to have a system of hierarchies. You're always going to have people that wanted to control shit. And fast forward, and it just seems like, well, there was always going to be organised religion, or there was always going to be systems of
I mean, that's very fatalistic. And I was talking to a physicist recently, actually, and I was interested because I'm writing a sci-fi book, and I wanted to check some facts against him, and I was trying to convey the idea that is it possible for there to be a truly random event in the universe? Like, say that a sun explodes.
Yeah.
If you have enough information, do you know where every atom ends up? Do you know everything that happens? And the answer seems to be yes. There are events that give the impression of being random, but they kind of aren't. And it doesn't mean there's not randomness. It's a question of, and that becomes a question of free will, because if, in a physical sense, the universe is following preordained laws and rules, then does that not then also apply to free will? Is free will the only thing so far that we've discovered that is truly random? Or was I always going to be saying these words? Was Jen always going to be looking at me like, I don't know if I should have had you on this podcast?
That's just my face. You've known me for ages. You know I look angry when I'm not smiling. It wasn't a smiling fucking thing to... You're looking with a fucking grin while you're saying that.
See, Jen had no free will in this little explosive
psychopath.
fucking...
Just like, cheers the whole fucking time.
I'm sorry.
Know how I look when I don't smile, Barry.
Jen, I was always going to make that comment. I'm sorry. There's nothing I could have done about it.
So that suggests that you do believe in free will, though?
Yeah.
Do you believe in free will?
No, I choose to. No, I choose to.
No.
Even though I also... It's a real doublethink thing, I choose to believe in free will because it makes me feel better, but I don't necessarily actually believe in it.
Why does it make you feel better?
Well, because I think everyone preferred to think that they had some modicum of control over their life.
But
Why do you not?
Why do I not believe in free will?
Yeah, well, just for the sake of...
There's two things that discount it for me. So one is... I kind of am of the... And this is with no scientific knowledge whatsoever.
People are expecting that you've got a whole thesis behind it.
Of course. I am an astrophysicist. But I kind of maybe am more aligned in the thinking of that time is not linear and time is just a block of... and everything is one eternal now happening. And so if that is true, then free will... The only thing that could... make free will possible in a system like that is if human consciousness somehow had the ability to open up different,
if it was somehow existent on another dimension.
Yeah. So like every decision creates a multiple reality or a divergent path within reality. But I don't think that that's true. Second of all, even if time isn't a block and we are just moving through it in a linear fashion, between your genetics, your heritage, everyone you've ever met, your parents and your influences, how many of your decisions that you're making in the moment are even yours?
Well, with that, an extension of what Ben was saying, I was listening to this podcast the other day about how people have created this app.
Fucking podcast.
I'm obsessed with them. They're terrible.
They're very good.
Where people have basically created an app for people to find things that they're not getting sent to them from all the information that's gathered about them. So I'm of the thinking that people think they want to be in control, but really we just want to be comfortable.
Correct.
That's my thinking.
Correct.
Because all the apps, all the, whatever you want to call footprint, that you have on the net, you get all these things fed to you. You get websites sent to you, things of interest, and you think it's random, and clearly it's not. Even if, I know we're smart enough to go, they've gathered Bowring's information and sent him this thing because they know that he likes it. But there is a part of us that's like, oh, cool, this just popped up.
Yeah, of course.
And so now there's all these people, and it actually started from a guy who used to work at Google, which is kind of interesting because he said he felt like he was in such a bubble where he got picked up on the Google bus and got taken to Google. You eat food at Google and you talk to people at Google and then you go home again. It's like, it's so insular. And so, I feel like we want to feel like we are making every decision, but we mostly want to be comfortable.
An algorithm can predict everything you're going to do.
Exactly. And we like that because that's what we're doing.
An algorithm sends maternity clothing brochures to women who aren't even pregnant yet, based on just their biometric data that they've been putting into Google.
Well, it's a joke that people will share things on Facebook when they'll go, the algorithm got it wrong. Because most of the time it gets it right. So when they get it wrong, it's hilarious because they're like, oh, they sent me a skateboard. It's... I think we say we want to have free will with everything, but I think most of the time we want to feel safe and comfortable.
And here's my...
That's just my little...
Here's my dumb proof about us always wanting to be in control.
Oh, I'm a control freak, so I completely agree with you as well.
Think about what...
You can't control shit.
Such a control freak.
What happens when, you're not meant to be asleep, right? You're sleeping in or something. Someone calls you on the phone. Yeah. And you go, yes. And they say, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to wake you. Usually, I don't know if you're like this, I'm like... No, I wasn't asleep. No, I'm totally up. I'm totally up and having my day.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I'm just cooking an egg. I'll be there in a second. Because I don't want them to know that I'm not in control, I guess. A drunken person falls up the stairs and people go, you've clearly had enough drinks. Yeah. And they go, no, I'm fine. Because they don't want to think that because of some sort of extracurricular biomechanical process that's going on in their mind that they fell up the stairs. They meant to fall up the stairs, because they have free will, they're in control.
So we always want to have that feeling.
And I hesitate to bring up periods, but how
we've
often...
talked about way worse.
Oh, red flag.
Red flag.
No.
Look, I don't want to get into that really, but
No.
Of course, it brings up things that are already there. I've been, surprisingly, I've been told by many women that I'm wrong about this. But we don't want to feel like hormonal imbalances in our body.
I say all the time
are influencing our mood.
Sorry, this is only funny because literally every other podcast...
And that goes for men too, by the way, because hormonal imbalances in my body influence my moods all the time.
I'm not laughing at what you said. I'm laughing because every other podcast we've done, we've both pretty much acknowledged, I'll say, I'm really hormonal because of it. It doesn't have to do with my period. I'll just be like, I feel... And Ben's the same. We've both acknowledged it. So I completely agree.
You can have brain parasites in you that are controlling your moods. You know what I mean? I am very comfortable, and took a long time to get to this, but I am very comfortable in the realm of knowing that I'm not in control of anything. That to me is very...
Maybe you can steer it a bit.
You can steer it, but at the end of the day, man, anything could happen. It's completely random. And I think that a lot of conspiracy things, because I used to be a big conspiracy theorist in the early 2000s. And eventually it all fell apart because I realised I was talking to my asshole and, the Twin Towers fell at the rate of falling objects. That proves that, really? Are you a physicist? You know that? No, you don't, so shut up.
Watched a good doco.
Exactly. I watched Loose Change on YouTube. I know the truth. But I realised a lot of the thinking is...
I watched a fake doco on alien invasion that had me completely convinced.
Of course, because you want it. Because at the conspiracy...
But it was a dramata. It was deliberately fake, and I didn't realise because I didn't see the first 5 minutes, and I was stoned. And I was like, oh my God, they're coming to kill us. For an hour and a half, I was terrified.
But there's a part of you that really likes that because someone's in control. The lizard people are in control. we're not just spinning aimlessly through space.
I like to feel in control, but I know I'm not.
When you look at the sky, sorry, Jen.
I don't care.
I get vertigo when I look at the sky sometimes.
Really?
Because I'm like, oh God, we're spinning so fast. Oh God.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not vertigo. Maybe it's just faint-headedness. Anyway, sorry.
Anxiety.
You were saying?
No, I was just going to say, I agree that, like, we're not in control, but then I think a lot of, like, what I'll do is I'll take control of something.
You're trying to micromanage.
I'll clean something. Or I'll,
clean someone's clock.
Sure.
verbally,
like, I'll say something like, I'm going to read my book, and then I'll go and do that. Like, you take control of little things. I mean, it's like...
I got this book. I got you right in my hand.
In, like, a sad way, it's what eating disorders are.
Yeah.
Across the spectrum. People who overeat, people who don't eat. Or, it's taking control of something in an environment in which you have no control.
Yeah, well, you have to not go insane from the fucking weight of it all. But it's like, if you're a thinking human being, there must have been a period of your life where you get that Google Earth vision where you pull out and you realise, you are a dot on a dot.
But I don't think everyone is affected in that much of a way, because not everyone is reaching for these things of control. I agree, like what you were saying about, you wake up in the morning, I'm awake, it's fine.
You want to appear to be in control.
Yeah, but not to the extent of people who get ill from it. Do you know what I mean?
Don't you find that because I've seen both of you out of control.
Thank you
for
bringing that up.
As you've seen me out of control many times. And there's a difference between out of control, just being a complete menace to society and knocking tables over and puking everywhere. That's beyond the pale. But when you whatever, you're a bit high, you're a bit drunk, you got a good groove going on, and you allow yourself whatever.
You got a bunch of grooves going on.
Bowring when you got that groove
fuck
going
off.
on.
When you're feeling groovy.
So trying to control me.
I love feeling groovy.
But you let go of that sense of control, and it's fucking, it's the best. It's freeing, right?
Oh, it's been a bit detrimental for me. A lot.
That's because you're an aggressive bitch that gets up in people's faces.
Get up in people's faces. I'm like,
Please.
nothing. I don't know. Well, how do you feel when it's happened to you?
Well, you get up in people's faces on your tippy toes. I've seen that. I've seen
that. You come here.
What do I think?
No, from what Benny said.
Well, I can't quite remember what he was yammering on about, to be honest. Can we have another
Something
beer?
about being groovy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
There's no more beers.
Oh, that's all right.
Sorry.
Speaking of lack of control, control your stocks next time. Control your quantity and supply next time I'm coming around.
This has moved from justice to faith to control.
I know.
Look, I think I recently got over a control issue. I was phobic of flying for 10 years.
I remember.
And I think, when I think back on it, what was the cause of it? And I think it was a couple of car crashes where I felt comfortable and I was in the back of a car and was half asleep, and then the cars crashed, and all of a sudden I feared a lack of control. I wasn't driving the car, I wasn't even really conscious, and all of a sudden I was spinning around and around on a highway while oncoming trucks were blaring their horns. Thanks, Australia, by the way.
Jeez.
Next time when you see someone spin out of control on a highway, don't just blare your horns and keep speeding towards them. Fucking assholes. Anyway, so, but I recently got over it, I guess through the relinquishment of the idea that I had any control over the situation. When I'm in that metal tube hurtling through the air, I'm definitely not in control, and that's okay. Yeah. And for a long time, for 10 years, it wasn't okay.
It's impressive.
It had a massive negative impact on my career.
I remember you telling me about it years ago.
Such as it was. But yeah, so that's like...
How was that first flight?
Well, it was actually really freeing. That's why I remembered it, because you were saying it's quite freeing to give up control. And realising that I was back in the air and there was nothing I could do about anything, and I wasn't piloting the plane with my eyes by staring out the window at the ground.
I've done that.
I wasn't keeping it up with sheer force of will. Was freeing.
How long was the flight?
Oh, it wasn't that long, but I've been on... It was about an hour and a half to Sydney to Melbourne, but I've been on other longer flights since then, and to varying degree, I've still got a few jitters and stuff, but it's nothing like the crippling put years on your lifestyle phobia that I was experiencing before.
Well, you're getting on the plane. So it clearly wasn't how it used to be. Like for a lot of people.
Well, no, but I
can't
forced myself to keep getting on planes whilst I was getting more and more phobic because I didn't want to believe that it was true.
In the beginning?
In the beginning, for 2 years, I'd say, until I just had this last flight, put years on my life. It was only Sydney to Brisbane. I'd been to hypnotherapy that hadn't worked. In retrospect, my hypnotherapist wasn't very good because I've had hypnotherapy since, and I think that one was a lot better. And I was probably in a better place to get over it, I guess, and I had other reasons to get over it. But I can't remember what I was fucking going on about.
Flying.
No.
Yeah, no, I know that, but the specific point.
No.
Oh yeah, been on longer flights. Oh, it's different every time, but generally it's within a range that is very manageable.
Have you? Has that phobia, that feeling? Have you ever has that ever been applied to anything else in your life, like where you had that same kind of crippling fear? Either I don't know. Have you ever had
about control?
No, well, just like
anything.
That level of, because I've experienced that level of fear as well, where it's like for all intents and purposes, you're a mental patient. Like you can't function. You're just so afraid.
No, the closest I
I'd
have is anxiety, where I'm just like, where it's like either I've made a fool of myself, or I've hurt someone, or I've done something bad.
Yeah, that's quite sickening, but it's a different flavour, I find, anyway.
Yeah, I don't think I've had like the thing of being physically scared to get onto something or something like that,
or to do something, or the thought of something. Because mine used to, when I was going through my terrible bouts of hypochondria, it was that kind of thing. It was just this
of getting on planes.
Yeah, I mean, I've never felt comfortable going on planes, but the kind of terror that you just describe on that plane, the terror that puts years on your life, you know, I've had that, waiting for the results of a blood test, or and it's all self-manufactured. It's completely, but it's
but for you,
unbearable.
Being hypochondriac, do you is that about control though?
No, I believe my hypochondria is just a manifest. It's a different face of anxiety. It's anxiety that wears that mask when it works, and days where I'm not feeling hypochondria, the anxiety will just take a different form. It's just this little fucking Rumpelstiltskins. Oh, that's not working. Well, what about this?
So you said it felt freeing to be in the plane and realise you have no control.
Well, to realise that I was able to travel without anxiety in a situation where, essentially yes.
Do you feel like that in life? Like when you're like, I have no control and it's kind of fine? Or do you sort of go the other way where you're like, no, I have control of what I'm doing and I can...
I guess I have a feeling of fairly limited control. I said this before, but I have a feeling of being able to steer things a bit.
Yeah.
But I'm in raging seas at the helm of a little tugboat that's breaking down, and the GPS is fucked, and I'm like, but I've got a bit of the rudder still going on here.
Yeah. Do you guys feel in control when you get on stage?
I tend to.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I would always say, when I was going through, this phobia of flying, I would say to other people, and I would think of myself, why is it that you can get up in, say, front of 6,000 punk rockers, all of whom are simultaneously screaming fuck off at different places? So there's always a fuck off happening somewhere, and it starts to be this undulating wave of hostility and hatred where it's fuck off you, fuck you off, fuck off you, fuck off, fuck, just this sea of fucks. And not care at all. And not be traumatised by that in the slightest.
When another person would be completely. That would
be a bit nervous getting in a car at that stage.
Because you still have, even
an elevator.
It doesn't seem like... No, I'm the same. I was terrible in elevators and bridges for a long time.
And bridges, bridges.
But even if you are on stage in front of 6,000 people heckling you, there is still, unless you're completely internally melting down, there is still an element of control. You still have that.
You still have the mic.
Well, your control of your being, your physical being.
Yeah, even to the point, exactly. You can just put the mic and walk the fuck off. I understand what you mean, shooting through the sky, because also it's evolutionarily fucking impossible. So there's a part of your brain, I think, that's just like, this ain't right, man. This is, like, we shouldn't be hurtling through space like this.
I suggest you go to the Qantas Museum in Longreach sometime in your long life to come.
I hope so.
My hypochondriac friend. And
It's been such a bad week. I've been eating myself alive all week.
It's been full on.
Oh, I've got bowel cancer at the moment.
And get in
Not literally.
He doesn't.
Get in an old, like, one of the, replica old planes that are glued together by bits of wood and tacks and with glass windows that aren't really bolted on that much, and read all the history of it and have a cathartic experience where you realise how far we've come as a civilization.
I know.
And that, it doesn't, when you're phobic of something, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
For when people say facts at you, like, do you know you're more likely to die with a coconut falling on your head, or whatever the hell it is. It doesn't matter to you at all because you're phobic. But
I said that to you once when you were telling me years ago when you were talking about the plane thing. I said, but you're statistically more likely to die on the taxi ride to the airport. Yeah. And you were like, no, not true, and just started giving me all these statistics that globally the amount of people that die on airplanes and it's comparable to cars. Like, whoa, you've really done your research.
But if you're not full-blown phobic, which you don't sort of sound like you are with planes, you're just a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, not comfortable.
Then facts may help. And that's a beautiful museum to go. Brought a tear to my eye. There was a movie narrated by Michael.
Bowring.
There was a movie narrated by Michael Caton, whose mum used to work in the first Qantas office. And when the transition, it faded from the sight of the little old plane that was cobbled together with spit and straw taking off, and then it turned into a massive 747.
Yeah.
And I felt something inside me move. I was like, maybe I have some faith in humanity after all. Maybe I have some faith. You hear that? It's me rustling the note around. Maybe I have some faith in us as a people. That's what it is. I have faith in us, and I hate it when things work against us, or when we work against ourselves.
Yes.
Because I want us to succeed and be good.
Yes.
And I wish I had another beer. I'm getting really sentimental.
But I agree with you. That's the thing. Like as Jen knows, and probably you know as well, Sam, I have a lot of apocalyptic fantasy. Not even fantasies. Beliefs. I think we're fairly doomed as a species.
Yeah, me too.
And I know you do too.
Yeah.
One of my favourite things you've ever said to me is, "We are ants arguing in the shadow of a boot." And I subscribe to that as well. But the dread I feel when I think about that isn't, we're going to kill the Earth, because we won't. The Earth, even if it's radioactive for 1 billion years, it'll be fine. Yeah. It'll recover. It is the loss of potential.
And then
we are very remote.
And then who will rise? It will be, what are they? Those little things? Oh God!
The water bears.
The water bears will rise as the dominant race. What are they? What's their special name or their scientific name?
I can't remember, but they can survive in radioactivity in the vacuum of space, and they can survive everything.
Yeah. And they're in a lot of different places.
Do you have faith that
tardigrades? The tards will rise.
Do you have faith that? Because I heard someone describe like what humanity's currently going through is like a bottleneck period where if we can somehow right the course in the next 100 years, I don't know what the exact number is. If we could, if we could get it together and get through this bottleneck, we'd be okay as a species. We're never going to be okay as a species. There's always going to be fighting and war. And
I guess I do. I also.
Do you have faith that there will be an 11th hour fucking?
Oh look, I wouldn't say faith. I have a hope, and I think at the other end of that, maybe things look very different, but for us, that. I wouldn't call it faith. I'd call it a hope. A fervent hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have like a teeny hope that a huge amount of stuff would have to very dramatically change. Like there's countries that are happy that global warming's happening because areas will melt and they'll have more access to trading because of
this is the problem.
Boats. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like.
Did you see that that oil company came out the other day and said we have another massive spill off the coast of Australia? It would be good for the local economy, and it's what retrograde thinking?
Yeah,
it's not even. But I don't think it's. I think it's change.
But a lot will change. Think of how much has changed in the last 100 years. So much will change. We won't see.
No, I know.
It,
I was saying that. Sorry, go.
No, it's okay.
I was saying that.
They're about to develop a pill, they reckon, that's going to make you 10 years younger, not immortal.
Hello.
Yeah.
I do think.
Would you want to be 10 years younger?
I certainly do.
I'm way
With the
better
head,
now.
no, with the brain you've got, yeah, fuck
Oh,
yeah.
the brain.
Fuck
oh,
yeah.
maybe.
With the brain I've got now,
It doesn't mean you go back in time to high school, by the way, Ben.
No, I don't want to go back to fucking high school.
He just wants to remember where he put his shoes.
No, I think that the world because everyone's talking about, that stuff's not going to happen for ages, but I think the acceleration has begun in a major way.
Yeah.
And I really do think that the world 5 years from now it won't be unrecognisable, but it will be very, very different.
Well, there's that theory of like I can't remember what it's called.
Peak technology.
The exponential tech curve, where it's out of control. People are working towards the same aim, but they're not talking to each other like they used to because they don't even know each other exists. And then you get all this divergent tech addressing, either the same problem or different problems, and no one's talking to anyone, and all of a sudden there's amazing things happening, dangerous things happening, crazy things happening, all kinds of things happening, and we're not in control of it. We're holding a hose, a fire hose of tech.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just going.
And this is the thing.
I feel like it's exciting.
Oh, it's not.
See, Ben and I argue about this all the time. We argue about it all the
I think people
time.
just use it badly.
He's like, the Earth's fucked, and I
It's
always...
not the Earth.
Okay, sorry.
Society.
Don't scratch your brow like a 90-year-old. So the Earth will continue.
The
I
current
agree.
roster of life.
Yeah, but I feel excited by what will be discovered, and it won't. Even if we see it for a minute, I think it's exciting.
When there's unfettered access to drone technology, the ability to fake audio and video footage, 3D printing, all bets are off at that stage. Like, it's the Wild West. All bets... It's fucking true, man.
I know, but
What good is gun legislation going to be when people have a 3D printer that they can make their own gun in their living
I know,
room?
and they
You know what I
already
mean?
are.
It's fucking terrifying. But it's like... everyone's talking
Maybe
about this
even
stuff...
a ray gun.
Totally.
I guess you need to have faith in humanity.
I have no faith in
I
humanity.
know, but I'm saying that's what you need to... What people, not you.
Do you have faith in humanity?
At times, I don't have...
I have
I
faith
do
in-
believe there are evil people.
I have faith
think
in
there are-
individuals. I have faith in... I think when people gather in collectives, that's when it's fucking dangerous.
I feel like, though, for the most part, even when that happens, even when I am so far against what they believe, they are doing it because they believe it's for the greater good. Even if it's a psychotic person who...
If they're killing people, that
Yeah, I'm
doesn't
not
really-
saying it's okay. I'm just saying, for the most part, I believe people are doing what they think is right.
but
Even if it's wrong, but within that, I have faith that if people...
That's why superhero movies spend 20 minutes of backstory describing how the supervillain became the evil lizard in the sewer who is completely convinced that he's doing it all for the greater good.
Yeah.
There's really, it's very... True evil is difficult to discover.
I think it definitely exists, though.
I think it exists, but I think it's a neurological condition of pure psychopathy. I don't think that it's...
Yeah.
I think it's like a deficiency of the empathic centres or whatever you want to say.
Yeah, they're a psychopath.
I think most... But
Politicians, in other words.
Yes, I think some politicians are pure evil. I think a lot of
CEOs.
CEOs, a lot of fucking the people that said that the oil spill off the coast of Australia will be good for the economy. I don't think that's retrograde thinking. I think they're fucking insane. I think they're psychotic.
Yeah.
I think that exists, but I think it's a very small population.
Better look up retrograde after this because I'm not sure I've used it.
No, I think you have. but it's almost that banality of evil that's the most terrifying to me. That quote unquote average good people can just go, let's genocide a bunch of people. That's for the greater good. At that point, motivation is irrelevant. Like you're still killing kids. Like I don't, whatever you think the greater good is irrelevant.
The majority of people, I don't know, it's such a complex, hard conversation to have. I think the majority of people have good in them. Is that better?
Yeah, no, totally.
If they didn't, we'd all be dead.
Of course.
Because the psychopaths would somehow
Absolutely.
team together.
And I think that's why it's so jarring and awful when something truly awful does happen. Because
but the
it is rare.
psychopaths aren't team players, don't forget that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's even harder for them to find a buddy. That'll slow them down.
I have faith in individuals. If you fall down in the street, chances are most people will help you or see if you're okay. Where I lose my faith is persons collectively when they gather in groups and that group mentality and that group insanity.
Such as a trio of people at a podcast.
Yeah, just ranting at each other.
I think everyone just needs purpose. Get a purpose that's good for the environment and then you'll all be fine.
I thought the other day that a fun purpose...
Jenny saves the world.
Here's a fun purpose.
Plant a tree.
What do you think of this? I have this plan to try and somehow invent living tofu so that people can farm it and it can feel pain when it gets killed. And it can be treated badly and
If you were
put in cages.
This is so away from faith and everything, but in terms of talking about society, if you were like dictator of Earth and you could change one thing overnight, what thing would you immediately change? I can go first.
Yeah, go
you
first.
just need thinking time.
All right, well, you think while I say my thing. I think that I would... Oh, fuck, there's two. But I think the number one...
Hey, you what?
Okay, no, I'll go with the one. I'll go with one. No further expansion. No further expansion. You're not allowed to fucking go into any more fucking forests or woods or ocean or any... Like, leave it the fuck alone. Whatever is already industrialized, fine. You can build up. You can no more building out, and that goes for every country.
It's a pretty good way to sort of trick the genie.
Or just like leave the rest of it alone. You know, there's talk now of tearing up part of the Sydney National Forest because we can't build a highway through Aussie battlers' homes. Yeah, build it through their fucking homes. I don't give a shit. Sorry, fuck off. No more. Like no more tearing down shit. Every tree is like a universe.
You hippie. I don't know if I can think of one yet. Bowring.
Am I allowed to, like, you know, wish for more wishes, like you would if it was the genie, and be like, I would say that I get to continue as supreme dictator of Earth for the rest of time.
Do you think you could do it?
And then I'll work it all out in a bit.
Do you think you could do it? Do you think that if you fucking...
Yeah, I fantasize about it all the time. Are you kidding me? Love to be supreme dictator of Earth.
Be pretty good.
It would be awesome.
Yeah. I'd also ban the industrialized meat industry. And if you want to eat protein, you either got to eat insects or you got to eat lab-grown steak.
We're going to go that way anyway. Insects are going to be the next.
They should be
protein because they're. Yeah, anyway.
Every suburb should have a silo full of crickets.
Is not difficult.
No, and they're infinitely replenishable.
And they're packed full of protein.
Pound for pound more protein.
And they don't feel pain.
They always eat them.
No pain receptors in a cricket.
They eat them already, like across Asia and in Norway.
Of course.
It's like a really
Look,
famous
I can't give you the specifics. I liked your answer, and mine would be something very environmental. Because
Same.
I've sometimes thought it is more of a short story idea than, you know, an actual rule that I would invoke. But if you just said to everyone, okay, the sea's off limits. That's it. You'd screw things so badly that people would just have to find another way. Like, you can't fly over it. Can't go into it. Can't cross it. Not allowed. So you're all got to make it work somehow. It's like the de-globalization of the world.
Yeah, wow.
But it's more just wouldn't it be fun to see how that all went than something I actually believe would result in a lot of good.
It's going to be so fun to see how it goes. We're in it at the moment.
I feel, and probably every generation's felt this, but I do feel like we're at some kind of crossroad or apex of history, and it's very interesting. Whatever's going to happen
does feel like that, probably.
But I think so too.
But maybe we're right. Sometimes
I think we are right.
Once every now and again, you just are right about something.
I don't think the globe has ever been. It's always been separate kingdoms, separate countries. The globe has never been unified in the way it is, and it feels like that bottleneck that I was talking about. Something's got to fucking give. Something's got to. It can't keep going. And it feels like we're at a...
If I had the money for it, I would be buying a bunker. No worries.
Well, the billionaires are doing that, man.
In New Zealand.
They're all buying up land.
Yeah, I don't know where, but I'd get one. It'd be a good one. Have a PlayStation in it.
Nice. What do you need?
Just Bowring playing PlayStation in a fucking bunker for the rest of time.
Yeah. I mean, look, I would just do that anyway. It doesn't have to be the bunker.
It's the difference between an apartment in Sydney and a bunker in New Zealand.
Sounds perfect.
I feel like we're there. I feel like it's been good, and that's like a happy bit to end.
Yeah,
and so I
just want to quickly look at what some of these other... Not to get into them or anything, but I just want to see what they were. Love, oh my God, you guys do go for the big topics.
Yeah.
Death, oh God, love and death.
What should we go for, Bowring?
I don't know, I was expecting for one of these to be a random, cactus or something. Chance.
Cactus?
Yeah, like just something random. Sex? Yeah, right, you're really about the big stuff. Sorry to have ruined that for...
You didn't ruin it. It was the first one that's gone off topic. So it was
and no one will...
No, I mean, sorry to ruin those topics because you can never use them again.
No, we'll use them.
Look, I'm not checking out love, death, and sex because you read them out, you fucking idiot.
Oh, wouldn't it have been a different experience if it had been love, death, and sex?
Bowring, how can people find you online to argue with you about religion?
Oh, God, I want to be able to. If only this had been about sex.
If you want to
How can people contact you to talk about sex?
If you want to contact Sam about being a white imperialist who hates other people's cultures,
Yeah. Well, you can go to sambowring.com. The name is spelt Bowring. It's like you would bow to a prince and then you would kiss his ring. SamBowring.com. We'll give you all my social media. I've written books, as has been mentioned. There's
Twitter.
comedy clips up there. Oh, there's no one follows me on Twitter because I never tweet.
at Semi-Fantastic.
Semi-Fantastic.
I knew. So there you go. Find Bowring. We will have all his links in the show notes.
I'm sorry. I'm not actually.
why are you sorry?
It's great.
Well, that's why I instantly said I'm not.
I'm
No
sorry.
need to apologise. Thank you for doing Oink Time. All right.
Glad you found a cool name to call yourself.
We've had,
I'm Ben Ellwood, Ben Ellwood 11 Twitter.
and I'm Jen Carnovale, jencarnovale.com. Chat to us at Oink Time on Twitter. Thanks, Bowring.
Not my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Bye.